Archers in Rise of Kingdoms are the type of unit that are really difficult to invest in if you don't really know what you're doing. So today, I'm going to be looking at Archer commanders and giving you an Archer investment plan, starting at KvK 1, going to KvK 2, 3, and eventually all the way to Season of Conquest. So if you want to start from the beginning of the game with some of the newest and oldest commanders in the game, and you want to work to some of the newest and most powerful commanders in the game, by the time you reach the end game, you want to stick around till the end of the video. Now, before we start off today, as always with any guide that I do that's going to be stage-based, there will be timestamps on this video. If you're in KvK 2, for example, and you want to skip to KvK 2 information, I highly recommend just doing that. You don't need to sit through pre-KvK if you've done your KvK 1 already, so keep that in mind. You can skip to wherever you are, but if you want a bit of a comprehensive guide and you want to see some stuff that you may have missed when you were in the earlier stages, and maybe you choose to do that at a later stage, maybe you didn't choose the right civilization, maybe you don't have some certain equipment pieces, then it may be worth watching these earlier KvKs and these earlier stages. But if you want, feel free by any means to skip to whatever part of the game you were in. But we're going to start off with the earlier stages of the game. Pre-KvK 1, you've just started your account, and the first thing we'll do is civilization. Civilization, really, it's quite simple for the early game. Just pick China or Britain, in my opinion, for archers. Take Britain, you do get archer attack, but that's not very useful early game. But you get some true training speed, and you get Boudica, so you can do barbarians with her. If you want to use China, you can. The thing is, Sun Tzu is almost useless to you, since you're not going to be an infantry main, you're not going to invest in infantry, and you're probably not going to run him on the open field either. So Sun Tzu, probably not going to be the most amazing thing for you. Britain, in my opinion, is going to be a little bit better for you in the earlier game, just because you get Boudica, and you can use her as that barbarian march. Now, moving on to the earlier stage commanders, there's not actually that many for archers. When you look at the especially epic commanders, archers really have 4. One of them is useless, you can't really get Kira. Imhotep, in my opinion, is not good on the open field, so you could either pick between Kusunoki and Hermann. In my opinion, Kusunoki is going to be better, A, because he does have an AoE, so you can barbarian farm with him, which is nice, and B, he is an okay commander on the field. Same thing with Hermann, pretty much okay commander on the open field. I like Hermann more in 1v1 situations because of his silence, it is really nice, and the rage reduction. But Kusunoki does hold a fair bit of value in the fact that he does do quite a bit of damage. So Kusunoki or Hermann both work. I personally ran Hermann when I was in the really early stages of the game. I think that hasn't really changed. So in my opinion, Hermann is a better pick. But if you want to do barbarian farming and get overall value, Kusunoki in the earlier game can be pretty good if you're AoE farming. So Kusunoki can work. Hermann, though, probably slightly better for open field fighting if your pre-KvK stuff is very, very fought with a lot of people fighting. On top of this, if you get to pick any legendary archer commanders, I would pretty much just exclusively put them into Thutmose. I don't actually fully know about this newest archer commander, but to my knowledge, he looks a bit more like a rallying commander than an open field commander, so in my opinion, you're probably not going to get him. Otherwise, Thutmose really good if you do have access to some sculptures for him from events, MG, whatever it may be. Thutmose could pick up probably the strongest legendary archer commander, besides some of the ones that do come in the KvKs. Finally, your last bit of setup with archers is going to be your equipment. Archer equipment's generally quite simple once you get to the slightly higher tiers, but for earlier game stuff, there isn't much very standout things. Archers don't have that really amazing low tier piece of equipment. You've got the Staff of the Lost, which is a good piece of equipment. You're going to get 8% defense, but it's a rare piece of equipment, or elite, so it's going to be a bit more expensive. In terms of helmets, I think the Helm of the Phoenix is worth getting in the really early game. You can get the print pretty easy. I think there's some events you can get it from, and you can get it as well from the crystal chest. Other than that, that's just pretty much anything that's low tier that's going to give you archer stats. So you got the chainmail, the Helm of the Phoenix. For your gloves, you've got the leather gloves. For your legs, you've got the Greaves of the Exile, and for your boots, you've got the edged boots. So there's not much equipment for archers that have a cool set like cavalry, but you do have that option for some of the low tier stuff. In my opinion, get edge boots, get Helm of the Phoenix, and get the archer chainmail, and also get the archer gloves because they're going to give you health, and those low tier pieces of equipment will be very much fine for the really early stages of the game. Moving on to KvK 1. This is where things get spicy for archers because technically, in my opinion, opinion, archers are probably the strongest or second strongest troop in KvK1 if you're spending money. If you're spending money, Cavs are better because you have Minamoto, but otherwise, archers are going to be your best free-to-play troop because you get access to YSG, and a YSG, he's an instant expertise. Let's be fully realistic. If you're an archer main and you haven't maxed out a YSG in KvK1, you're going to have a very, very rubbish time in KvK2 and KvK3 as well. The reason being, YSG is just an absolute meta commander to the point I didn't even commander swap him because I had other commanders like Cyrus who were not as strong. So in my opinion, YSG a must expertise in KvK1. All your gold head should go straight into him. At the minimum, try and get him to 5-5-1-5 or something close to that, because his third skill is technically useless, and you can expertise it later so you can max out his full kit. In my opinion, YSG's full kit is worth it, but if you need to put gold sculptures and you don't have enough for a full expertise just yet, I'd go first skill max, second skill max, and then try put the rest into his fourth skill, because his fourth skill is really, really good. So in KvK1, YSG will show up on the Wheel of Fortune. Must grab commander. I don't care what type of murder ball you're trying to make. If you're an archer main, you need him, or you're just going to have a very, very unfun time in your KvKs. To go with your YSG, you've really got two options. If you got some gold sculptures into Thutmose, or some levels into him, and he's around 5-3-1-1, 5-2-1-1, some weird level like that, Thutmose can work. If you have spare gold sculptures after you expertise YSG, Thutmose can also still be quite good there. The reason being, Thutmose is a very good commander in KvK1 and KvK2, and if you get him even to 5-5-5-1, he's going to be an absolute beast, or 5-5-1-5, any way you want to do it, he's going to be very good. So in my opinion, Thutmose is actually worth your gold sculptures, and later you'll be able to commander reset him, and same with YSG. So Thutmose, in my opinion, I would actually expertise, or not expertise, at least work towards an expertise in your earlier KvKs. Even if you get some events that allow you to get a couple of Thutmose sculptures, I personally would consider it because he is that strong of a commander. Other than that, you've got some epic commanders available, Herman, Kusunoki. All these commanders are still feasible in KvK1, but because of commander reset, a lot of people are going to expertise more powerful commanders for KvK1, and not as many people are going to choose to run epic commanders. So you're going to see more Minamotos and stuff like that on the open field, which is why I'd probably recommend for most players getting a Thutmose, getting him to around 5-5-1-1, and putting him with a YSG, and you're going to have a meta march. It's going to destroy on the open field, and it's going to trade really well. Put Thutmose as the primary because it's going to hide your YSG a little bit, not to mention YSG already has good rage gain, so you don't need that skill tree. So Thutmose as primary, YSG as a secondary, and you're going to be in a very good position. Just to quickly show a talent tree that would pretty much look like Thutmose, to do this tree will pretty much be fine. Copy exactly what you can see here, take him to level 60, and you're in a very good position. As for KvK1 archer equipment, just work on getting all the rare pieces that you didn't have before. So get the Staff of the Lost and get the Greaves of the Exile, and then you're going to start working on your epic set. Archer equipment is good in the fact that it does have an epic set of equipment. The only bad thing about it is the epic set is not the most amazing. The first piece of equipment you're going to get for archers, if you can, is the Flame Treads. If you can get that blueprint, 100% recommend it. Even if it's from an event where you spend some gems, it's going to be worth it for you, especially in the long run, because it is that good of a piece of equipment. You'll probably keep it up until you're getting your first legendary pieces. It's actually one of the last things you will upgrade for your archer march. So Flame Treads, 100% recommend getting those first. And then from there, just upgrade your lower tier stuff. So for example, you're probably going to be using the chainmail for archers if you didn't go and get the blue piece of equipment, which is the archer's heavy armor. In my opinion, if you didn't get that blue piece, instead of the chainmail, just go straight to the revival plate. Now, while it's not the best compared to the commander's heavy armor, they're about the same. I think the revival plate is just a better pickup over the chainmail, instead of going chainmail, commander's heavy armor, and then the revival plate. And then from there, just work on the archer set. Whichever pieces you get access to, just go and do those. So whatever you get access to, I do it, and then you're going to be in a good position. Also, Revival Helm is a good one if you get access to that early. It may be worth doing it over the Revival Plate, and then just get the Commander's Chestplate instead. But try and get 1 to 2 epic pieces of equipment by the end of KvK1, and hopefully you can get a Flame Treads, and also hopefully you're able to get the Staff of the Lost, because it's a lot of stats that you can get for free, considering that archers do not have a green or below weapon. Other small tips for KvK1, use the Ottoman civilization. It's the best for archers by an absolute mile. Try and focus quite a bit on your VIP. You want to try and get to at least VIP 10, hopefully 12 by the time you've even started KvK1, and by the time you finish, you should be around VIP 12. And then try and put a lot of points into your research. The reason I say focusing on research is important is because you're going to get a lot of stats out of it. Focus on the archer stuff you want. If you're at this point where you got passive and bodkin arrows, really good just to pick them up. You don't need to get the other stuff if you're only going to be running archer units. Just make sure you focus your things in right, and you're going to be in a very good position when you do start your actual combat. Moving on to KvK 2, really, it's the exact same as KvK 1. The reason being, you don't get any amazing archer commanders in KvK 2. The best you're going to get is probably Tamiris and Edward of Woodstock. To my knowledge, they come basically at the end of the KvK though, unless the release cycle has changed. Even then, they're just not really worth it. Edward of Woodstock is not the most amazing, Tamiris is not the most amazing, and while you can commander reset them, I think they're more niche commanders who serve differently on the open field. Tamiris, definitely so. I wouldn't get her at all unless you're running like 3 or 4 marches. Edward of Woodstock may be worth it with YSG over Thutmose if you didn't expertise Thutmose, but by the time you get access to Edward, again, unless it's changed and I don't know, there's almost no point in doing that when you can just run a Thutmose instead. So Thutmose, much better than most of the other archer commanders here, and YSG is just straight up much better overall. On top of this, you can't expertise more than 2 legendary commanders because you can't swap more than 2. So unless you want to keep a commander like YSG and you want to swap 3 archer commanders, probably not the best idea to go and invest in a second march of an Edward with Tamiris, which technically would be the best march you can do in KvK2. Only issue is Edward Tamiris, A, you need a very good murder ball, and B, you need to wait till KvK2 and win an MGE to get access to a Tamiris in that Mightiest Governor. So generally, I'd say Edward Tamiris, just skip them. They're not going to be very impactful to you, and you're going to get access to them in KvK2. So ignore the legendary archers in KvK2, just stick with your plan of YSG with a Thutmose, and you're going to be in a very good position. As for the equipment, at this point, when you're about to enter KvK3, you should have a full epic set of equipment that includes the epic weapon, which is the Golden Age, that includes a full epic helmet, chestplate, gloves, leggings, boots, and you hopefully want to have an accessory or 2. Maybe the Silent Trial, maybe even just the Call of the Loyal. They're just free stats you're going to get on your marches, which are going to be nice. So try get an accessory or 2, try and get a full epic piece of equipment, and as KvK2 progresses, if you are willing to spend some gems on some equipment, I recommend doing a little bit. You can put some gems into getting a Dragon Breath plate, and you can also put some gems into probably getting the Dragon Breath gloves, because you will take these throughout KvK3 and on to Season of Conquest. So Dragon Breath Van Braces are really, really good, and then also the Dragon Breath plate you're also going to be running. If you don't want to do that and you have access to Lucerne Scrolls and you got a bit lucky, you can get the Milky Way. It's technically going to give you slightly more stats than the Dragon Breath plate when you finish your overall archer equipment set. So you can get the Milky Way, and with the Milky Way, you can pair it with the Ian's Choice. It's a slightly better pairing of equipment, in my opinion, a bit more difficult and a bit more annoying to acquire if you are not getting the Lucerne Scrolls. That being said, if you do Ian's Choice and also the Milky Way, is going to be a ever slightly better piece of equipment, because if you are spending the money on Lucerne Scrolls, it's easier to get the blueprints to iconic it, which does make it a little bit more worthwhile in my opinion. Other than that, for KvK3, just continue your technology in the way it is and continue to use the Ottoman Empire, and you're going to be in a really good position. Ottomans pretty much just carry archers, so even if your commanders and equipment are not perfect, you should still get some pretty good trades because of how good the Ottoman civilization is for archer units. So Ottoman, really good. Make sure you're running that anytime you're fighting at all. I literally just run it 24/7, but if you don't want to do that, you want to switch to Germany for the AP gain and all that, makes sense. Just when you fight, make sure you are using the Ottoman Empire, because it is just that impactful. Now, finally, moving on to Season of Conquest and beyond. This is the point where you're going to get access to some of the best commanders in the game. This is the point where you're going to get access to some of the best commanders in the game, such as Zhu Lang, commanders like Shajar. All these commanders are some of the best that exist. So in my opinion, this is where you get to have a lot of fun with your archer commanders. The first thing I do, if you're going to do anything, is swapping both of your archer commanders, Thutmose and YSG. Hopefully at this point you've expertise YSG and Thutmose is at an okay or good skill level, and you're going to get a nice little commander swap out of both. And in my opinion, the march you're probably going to go for, it's a bit obscure. it would be something like a Shajar with a Zulang. Now, you might say, why Shajar? She's just a better investment right now over Herman, and I think she's got a bit more future potential. If you don't want to do some crazy investment strategies like I'm recommending, and even though Shajar Zulang is really good, you can cut out Shajar if you're going to Season 3 right now, and you can get a Herman instead and just run a Zulang with a Herman. Perfectly fine to do, perfectly reasonable, and it is going to be an absurdly powerful and good March. The other option again, Shajar with Zulang. In my opinion, that's what I would take because I think that Herman's going to start to lose a bit of value as archers move towards more skill damage, as archers move away from skill damage, they move towards more mighty healing. All this stuff is going to make a pretty big difference on the archer investment strategy. So in my opinion, I would just pick up a Zulang with a Shajar, run them together, they're going to be perfectly fine. Shajar is going to be a really nice primary commander, and Zulang is going to be a really good secondary commander. So that's my current opinion on the current March to invest in. But if you're not fully in Season 3 yet, just wait. There's probably going to be new archer commanders that come to the game at some point, and they're definitely going to change up the investment meta. So just wait until then, and after that, you can probably invest in those commanders, and I'll have videos on that once it does come out. But for now, currently, Shajar and Zulang is the best option in my opinion. The last real tidbit of advice for archers is to work towards your 2-2-2 set, the set that I pretty much coined. It's the best archer set in the game because it's going to give you the most stats. The 2-2-2 set is really simple. It's 2 KvK pieces, 2 set pieces or the Milky Way and the Ian's Ballads, and 2 leadership pieces. The reason you do this, it gives you the best stats, it trades the best from the trading simulator that I ran, and this is what the set looks like. For your weapon, you want to try and work towards the Hydra's Blast. For your helmet, you want to try and get the KvK helmet for archers, which I am not clicking because I have the blueprint, the Ancestral Mask of the Night. For your chestplate, you want to get the Milky Way or you want to get the Dragon Breath plate. For your gloves, you either want to get Dragon Breath Vambraces or Ian's Choice. For your leggings, you want to get the Chassis of the Glorious Goddess. And for your boots, you want to get the Greaves of the Glorious Goddess. It's going to be your best set by a really good margin, and it's going to trade amazingly. So in my opinion, that's the set you want to go for. The exact order I would do it in, I'd get Chassis of the Glorious Goddess first. I would then get the Dragon Breath or the Milky Way. After that, I'd probably get the KvK weapon. Then after that, you just want to go and get the gloves because they're quite a simple and small upgrade. Then you're going to go and get the helmet because you should have had another KvK by then. And finally, you'll get the boots because they're not the most amazing upgrade, but they are a small upgrade nonetheless. So that, in my opinion, is the best archer set of equipment that you can strive to if you're an archer main in Season of Conquest or in Season 3. Now, other than that, that is it. That's your full archer investment guide. If you follow pretty much everything I said here, you're going to be in a good position. You'll have access to some of the best commanders in the game, you'll have some of the best equipment in the game, you'll be using the right civilizations, and you'll basically be good to go. So in my opinion, that's the best investment plan for archers. I don't think you can get a much more appealing one or a much more simple one to follow that's going to give you 95% of archer value. There might be a small tip I missed, but I've probably covered it elsewhere. It's very hard to cover everything to do with archers. They're a very weird troop type, but in my opinion, this investment plan will do you very solid. So if you're in the early game and you follow this to a T, you will get some really good results as long as you're an active player and you're constantly progressing your account. Other than that, I just want to say I thank you all for watching and I hope to see you in the next one.